My phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me out of my focus. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and stepped outside the small clinic. The midday sun cast long shadows over the quiet village. I looked at the screen. My stomach dropped.
Timothy.
I almost didn't answer. After years of dealing with my stepfather, I knew his calls rarely brought good news. But curiosity and maybe a small bit of hope made me pick up. "Hello," I said, keeping my voice flat. "Dorothy." His voice was too cheerful, which immediately put me on edge. "Just thought you'd want to know. I sold the mountain cabin." I froze, gripping my phone tighter. "You did what?" "Sold it," he repeated like it was no big deal. "Don't look so surprised. It was for the greater good. Mine, of course." He let out a smug laugh, making my blood boil. "My name is Dorothy, and Timothy has been a problem in my life for as long as I can remember. My mom married him when I was 16, and he charmed his way into the family. But beneath the fake smiles, he always put himself first. The cabin wasn't just a house, it was my safe place. I had spent years fixing it up, making it my own. It was where I went to rest after tough work trips, where I hosted friends, where I felt most at peace. And now he had sold it like it meant nothing. "You had no right," I said, my voice shaking. "That cabin wasn't yours to sell." "Relax," he said lazily. "I've been taking care of things while you're off saving the world. You're never there anyway. It was an easy way to pay off my debts. You'll thank me later." "I'll thank you when hell freezes over," I snapped, then hung up before he could say another word. I paced back and forth, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside me. Timothy always had nerve, but this time, he had gone too far. What he didn't know, and what I planned to keep to myself for now, was that the cabin wasn't his to sell. It wasn't even fully mine. My best friend, Olivia, was co-owner. Years ago, we signed a legal agreement that required both of our signatures for any sale. This wasn't over. I sat on the edge of my cot, staring at my phone like it might catch fire. My mind kept replaying Timothy's smug voice. How could he think this was okay? Selling something so personal to me like it was just another item he could trade for quick cash. The cabin wasn't just a house.
It was a piece of my life.
As a kid, I spent summers there, chasing fireflies and hiking with my mom before she remarried. After she passed away, the cabin became the one stable thing in my life. When everything else felt like it was falling apart, it was my safe place. Timothy, of course, didn't care. To him, the cabin was just another thing to use for his own benefit, like so many things before. But this wasn't some small problem I could brush off. This was my home. I tapped on Olivia's name in my contacts and waited. "Hey, Dorothy." "What's up?" she answered cheerfully. "Timothy sold the cabin," I blurted, unable to hide my anger. Silence. Then, "He what?" "Apparently, he needed money to pay off some gambling debts," I said bitterly. "He thinks he can do whatever he wants, but our co-ownership agreement makes that impossible. He can't sell it without your permission." Olivia let out a low whistle. "He really thought he could get away with this? That man has no shame." "None," I agreed. "I'm going to need your help fixing this. I'll finish my volunteer work here and head home as soon as I can. Can you pull up the legal documents in the meantime? I want to be ready to fight this when I get back." "You got it," Olivia said firmly. "We'll handle this together." As I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. Timothy thought he had won, that I was too far away to stop him. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. I wasn't a scared teenager who used to let him push me around. I was an adult now with knowledge, support, and the law on my side. If he thought this was over, he was in for a big surprise. The next few days passed quickly as I finished my volunteer work, trying to stay focused. But no matter how busy I was, Timothy's betrayal stayed in my mind like a dark shadow. I couldn't stop picturing him smirking, proud of himself for paying off his debts at my expense. One evening, I sat down with my journal, something I always brought on trips. Writing helped me think clearly, and I needed that more than ever. As I scribbled, memories came rushing back. The first time I visited the cabin with my mom, the long days Olivia and I spent fixing it up, the quiet nights by the fireplace when everything felt peaceful. This wasn't just a house. It was a part of me, and Timothy thought he could sell it like it was nothing?
No.
Not this time. The next day, Olivia called again, sounding all business. I checked the co-ownership agreement, she said. You were right. He can't sell without my permission. The sale isn't legal. Relief flooded through me, but anger followed quickly. Do we know who he sold it to? Not yet, Olivia said. I checked county records, and there's no official transfer. It looks like he tried to do this under the table. Of course. That was just like Timothy, always looking for a shortcut, always trying to cheat the system. What do we do now? I asked. Well, Olivia said, we can confront him directly, or let the legal process take care of it. Either way, he has no legal ground to stand on. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Thanks, Olivia. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out, Olivia said warmly. But I'll always have your back. As I hung up, a plan started forming in my mind. I would finish my work here, go home, and face Timothy head-on. But I wasn't going to yell or argue. That's what he expected. No, I had a better way. Timothy always underestimated me. He thought he had won, but by the time I was done, he would know he had made a big mistake. When I finally got home, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Usually the cabin felt peaceful, but now it felt off. My plants were drooping from lack of water. The mail had piled up by the door, and the fridge was nearly empty. I set my bags down and took a deep breath. The weight of what I needed to do settled on my shoulders. Before I could even unpack, my phone buzzed. Timothy. I thought about ignoring it, but then I changed my mind. It was time to deal with him. Well, if it isn't my world-traveling stepdaughter, he said, his voice full of fake cheer. Back to reality, huh? What do you want, Timothy? I asked, not in the mood for games. Just checking in, he said, sounding smug. Making sure you're not too upset about the whole cabin thing. I mean, it's gone now, so no use crying over spilled milk. My jaw tightened. Funny you say that, I replied, keeping my voice calm. Because as far as I can tell, it's not gone. Olivia and I checked the records. The sale didn't go through. You can't sell something that doesn't belong to you. There was a pause. Just long enough to tell me I had hit a nerve. That's ridiculous, Timothy said, his voice no longer as confident. The buyer paid in cash. The paperwork is done. It's a done deal. No, it's not, I said firmly. Olivia and I own the cabin together. She never agreed to sell. That means legally it still belongs to us. He let out a bitter laugh. You think you're so smart, don't you? Always acting like the perfect daughter, always trying to control everything. You have no idea how hard I've had it, Dorothy. I did what I had to do. You stole from me, I said. I shot back. And you think I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? You made your choices, Timothy. Now you have to deal with them. He hung up on me. I stood there, phone still in my hand, shaking with a mix of anger and triumph. For years, Timothy had manipulated me, made me feel guilty, and taken advantage of my patience. But not anymore. This wasn't just about the cabin, it was about standing up for myself, setting boundaries, and protecting my peace. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, my laptop open, going through the documents Olivia had sent. The co-ownership agreement was clear. Neither of us could sell the cabin without the other's written permission. What Timothy had done wasn't just wrong, it was illegal. A sudden knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. When I opened it, there he was. Timothy, wearing his usual smug expression. Mind if I come in? He asked. But he didn't wait for an answer before stepping inside. I crossed my arms, watching as he made himself comfortable in one of my chairs. What do you want, Timothy? He sighed, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. Look, Dorothy, I know you're upset, but try to understand. I was desperate. The people I owed money to weren't exactly patient. I raised an eyebrow. And you thought stealing from me was the answer? Borrowing. He corrected, like that made it better. I was going to make the money back. Once my luck turned around, I would have paid you back every penny. I let out a bitter laugh. Your luck? That's what you're counting on. Timothy, you've been gambling away money for as long as I've known you. It's never worked out. Why would this time be any different? He shifted uncomfortably, but quickly put his confident mask back on. You're overreacting, he scoffed. It's just a cabin. You're barely ever there. Why not let someone else make use of it? Because it's mine, I snapped. Because it's my home. You don't get to decide what I value or what I do with my property. And for the record, Olivia cares about it just as much as I do. Your little sale is invalid, and you know it. His face darkened. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes, fear. You wouldn't really go to the authorities, would you? He asked quietly. You wouldn't ruin your own stepfather like that. I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. Try me. For the first time, Timothy had no comeback. He stood up, muttered something under his breath, and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I sank into my chair, my heart pounding. The argument had shaken me, but at the same time, I felt a small spark of satisfaction. Timothy was finally realizing that his usual tricks wouldn't work on me anymore. This wasn't just about the cabin, it was about standing up to someone who had taken advantage of me for far too long. After Timothy's dramatic exit, I called Olivia to fill her in. He showed up at my house, I said, pacing the living room. Try to spin some sob story about how he borrowed the cabin to pay off his debts. Olivia snorted. Borrowed? Does he even hear himself? What did you say? I told him the sale was invalid. And if he pushed me, I'd go to the authorities. I let out a breath. It rattled him a little, but knowing Timothy, he's probably already planning his next move. Let him, Olivia said firmly. We've got the law on our side. I've already contacted a lawyer to draft a formal cease and desist letter. If he tries to involve the buyer again, we'll have a legal record ready to stop him. I nodded, her words steadying me. Thanks, Olivia. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out, she said. But we're in this together. Over the next few days, I focused on gathering everything I could. I pulled up the co-ownership agreement, saved screenshots of Timothy's messages about the sale, and even tracked down the real estate agent involved in the deal. When I called her, her voice was tense. Look, I didn't know the full situation, she said quickly. Timothy told me he had permission to sell. If I had known there was a co-owner, I never would have touched the deal. Well, now you do, I said, keeping my tone calm. I'm not trying to drag you into this, but I need your help. Can you confirm that Timothy signed the paperwork alone? Yes, she admitted. The buyer hasn't paid in full yet because I flagged the transaction as suspicious. I can send you the documents if you need them. That would be helpful, I said, jotting down her details. As I hung up, I felt a new sense of determination. Timothy had counted on me being too quiet, too distant to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. That evening, Olivia called again with more good news. The letter is ready, she said. We'll send it first thing tomorrow. And if Timothy tries anything else, we'll take it further. Perfect, I replied, a small smile creeping onto my face. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was winning. I was taking control. Timothy thought he could walk all over me, but he was about to learn that I wasn't so easy to defeat. The next morning, Olivia and I finalized the cease and desist letter and sent it to Timothy. The message was clear. If he tried to claim ownership of the cabin or involve the buyer again, we would take legal action. I could only imagine his reaction. Probably a mix of shock and anger. He was used to getting his way by manipulating and intimidating people. But this time, he had no way out. Later that day, the real estate agent emailed me the documents she had promised. Seeing Timothy's signature on the fake sale agreement made my stomach turn. He hadn't just crossed a line, he had completely ignored it. But instead of making me feel helpless, it only strengthened my determination. That evening, I got a call from Paul Heyman, a local officer Olivia had reached out to. Miss Daniel, he said, his voice calm and professional. I've reviewed the documents you and Miss Langley provided. It's clear that the sale was unauthorized. Based on this evidence, we can move forward with a formal investigation if you'd like. Yes, I said without hesitation. I want to pursue this. We'll start by contacting the buyer and explaining the situation, he continued. If Timothy keeps interfering, we'll escalate to criminal charges for fraud.
Thank you, Paul, I said.
Let me know if you need anything else from me. As I hung up, I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. The wheels were in motion and there was no turning back. The next day, Timothy called. His voice was full of anger, but I could hear something else underneath, desperation. Do you have any idea what you've done, Dorothy? He snapped. You're ruining everything. No, Timothy, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm protecting what's mine. You did this to yourself. You've always been so ungrateful, he sneered. I stepped in when your mom couldn't handle things, and this is how you repay me? I let out a bitter laugh. You didn't step in, Timothy. You took over. You lied, manipulated, and used people to get what you wanted. And now, you're finally facing the consequences. He started to argue, but I cut him off. This conversation is over. If you have anything else to say, take it up with my lawyer. And then I hung up. I hung up and leaned back in my chair, my heart racing. Timothy's days of pushing me around were over. I was in control now. 3 days later, Paul Heyman called with an update. Miss Eric, we've spoken with the buyer. They've agreed to stop the transaction. They didn't know about the co-ownership agreement and are willing to cooperate with the investigation. Relief flooded through me. That's great news. So the sale is officially canceled. Yes, he confirmed. The cabin is still yours and Miss Langley's. However, we need to keep the case open to address your stepfather's fraud. Do you want to press charges? I hesitated for only a moment. Yes, I said firmly. He needs to be held accountable. Understood, Paul Heyman said. We'll move forward. Thank you for your cooperation. After the call, I let out a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly calm. The cabin was safe, and Timothy's lies were falling apart. That afternoon, I called Olivia. The sale is officially void, I told her. The buyer backed out. The cabin is ours again. That's amazing, she said, excitement clear in her voice. But what about Timothy? The police are moving forward with their investigation, I explained. He's not getting away with this. Good, she said. It's about time someone stood up to him. Her words stayed with me long after we hung up. For years, I had let Timothy get away with too much, his manipulation, his entitlement, his complete lack of respect for boundaries. But this time, I fought back. And it felt like a turning point. Not just for this situation, but for how I handled everything in my life. That evening, I went to the cabin for the first time since coming home. As I stepped inside, a wave of emotions hit me. The smell of the wood panels, the familiar creak of the floorboards, it all reminded me why this place was so special. I sat by the fireplace, letting the quiet of the mountains wash over me. This was my safe place. The place where I built memories, celebrated milestones, and found peace in the middle of life's chaos. And it was still mine. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. I wasn't just reclaiming a property, I was reclaiming myself. A week later, Paul Heyman called with a final update. Miss Eric, I wanted to let you know that your stepfather has been officially charged with fraud and attempted theft of property. He'll have to appear in court, and based on the evidence, the case against him is strong. Hearing those words brought a mix of emotions, relief, vindication, and even a small trace of sadness. Thank you for everything, Paul, I said. Thank you, I said sincerely. You handled this with a lot of strength, Paul Heyman replied. It's not easy to stand up to family, but you did the right thing. After the call, I sat in silence, letting everything sink in. For years, Timothy had been a constant presence in my life, a toxic one. But now, I was finally free from his control. The next day, Olivia and I met at the cabin. She brought a bottle of wine to celebrate, and we sat on the porch, looking out at the mountains. The crisp air smelled of pine and earth. To standing up for ourselves, she said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers, smiling. To us. As we talked, I realized how much this whole experience had taught me. I had spent so much of my life avoiding conflict, trying to keep the peace, especially with Timothy. But this time, I had fought back. And it felt like a turning point, not just in my relationship with him, but in the way I saw myself. You know, Olivia said, pulling me from my thoughts, this cabin has always been more than just a place to stay. It's a symbol of everything we've built, everything we've worked for. Don't ever let anyone take that from you again. Her words hit deep. The cabin wasn't just a house. It was a reflection of my independence, my strength, and my determination to protect what mattered most to me. That night, I sat by the fireplace, feeling a peace I hadn't known in years. Timothy's betrayal had tested me, but it had also proven how strong I could be. The cabin was safe, my boundaries were set, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly in control of my life. In the weeks that followed, things slowly returned to normal. The cabin, once caught in the middle of Timothy's greed, became my refuge again. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the trees outside, reminded me of what I had fought to protect. I didn't hear much from Timothy after the charges were filed. But one day, my mom called. Her voice was hesitant. You know how he gets, Dorothy, she said, her usual way of defending him. But this time, it felt weaker. I do, I replied calmly. That's why I did what I had to do. She didn't argue. For the first time, there was no guilt trip, no desperate attempt to make me fix things. Just a quiet sigh before she said, I hope you find peace. I already have, I said, and I meant it. Over the next few weekends, Olivia and I worked on small projects around the cabin. We painted the porch, patched up the roof, and planted wildflowers along the edge of the property. With every brushstroke and every nail hammered, I wasn't just fixing the cabin, I was reclaiming a part of myself. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Olivia turned to me. So, what's next for you, Dorothy? You took back the cabin, stood up to Timothy. What's your next big move? I thought for a moment. The answer came easily. I'm going to keep doing what I love, I said. Volunteering, traveling, living life on my own terms. But this time, I won't let anyone else decide how I should live it. She smiled and raised her glass. To that. As the days passed, I reflected on everything I had learned. This wasn't just about the cabin, or even about Timothy. It was about recognizing my own strength. For years, I had let his actions decide how much I pushed back, how much I tolerated. But now I knew I was capable of setting boundaries and keeping them, no matter how uncomfortable it made others. The cabin was more than just a place, it was proof of how much I had grown. A reminder that I didn't have to sacrifice my peace or my values to make someone else comfortable. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, I stood on the porch, breathing in the cool, pine-scented air. For the first time in years, I felt at home, not just in the cabin, but in my own life.